So there you have it. 57 votes for guilty, 43 for not guilty. The president is acquitted. It takes 67 votes. It takes 2/3 of the Senate for a conviction. So former President Donald John Trump is acquitted in this second impeachment trial, as he was acquitted 1 year ago.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another video brought to you by the Freedom Eagle, political news and commentary with a conservative lean. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about impeachment. Donald Trump is now 2-0 if you're keeping score, and I'd like to talk a lot about President Joe Biden. The core reason as to why he claimed and still claims that he ran for the highest office and how his core reason was debunked in front of a national audience, hopefully once and for all, during, interestingly enough, the impeachment of Donald J. Trump. Let's just say that many on the left, because the impeachment trial was carried by the masses, probably got to see and hear one specific piece of critical truth for the very first time, because the leftist media didn't have their hands on the editing buttons, therefore disseminating their own narrative to the viewers. But before we get into all of that, let's first talk about the impeachment trial. As we played right out of the gate with that little video clip, former President Donald J. Trump was indeed acquitted yet again, and as everyone expected, yet again, and it was another waste of time yet again. 40-something executive orders and some political theater. That's pretty much all we've seen since late January. Of course, that's if you ignore the goings-on with the sinking ship that is the Lincoln Project, and the Greater Than Thou Art Act by Andrew Cuomo coming unglued like a cheap Christmas decoration. At any rate, Trump has been acquitted once again, and as you can see on screen, just minutes after his acquittal, he released this formal statement. No more Twitter for the former president, as we all know, because of leftist overreach, so a carrier pigeon probably had this statement delivered. But as you can see, he thanks everyone who stood up for him, the Constitution, the country as a whole, etc. He basically thanked everyone who stood up for the values he expressed during his presidency: God, family, and country. He also called all of this yet another witch hunt and pretty much called out those who've done much worse, yet nothing has really come to them in terms of punishment. He did say he'd return sometime down the road in some capacity, and he pretty much ended his statement by wishing the American people the best and, God bless America, the usual. So, with that, it's all over. It does make me wonder what the media will pivot to next. Trump gave a lot of folks a lot of good ratings and probably kept a lot of people employed. There was a lot of money to be had if you hated Donald Trump. I'll be anxious to see how much coverage continues to be devoted to Trump now that there's really nothing of any substance to hang their ratings hopes on, at least anymore. Now, Joe Biden. The great hoax, the great lie, the great soundbite that we've all heard probably 100 times over the past few years. Fine people on both sides. Yeah, well, us conservatives know the truth about that soundbite. Heck, most of us heard and knew the truth about 5 seconds after former President Donald Trump first said those words. Yet at every turn, and with even on the biggest of stages, Democrats always play that card that Trump is a racist and sides with the KKK and white nationalists and white supremacists, and here's the proof. That soundbite is, what they think is their proof, all wrapped up in about 5 seconds of words. Fine people on both sides. Well, I say all of that to say this. Some people probably received one heck of a shock the other day. A heck of a lot of people probably received some breaking news during that impeachment trial, sort of like finding out your favorite team actually lost the Super Bowl after being told for 3 years that they actually won. As many on the left watched the trial in hopes that Trump would be taken down for good, they were treated to a piece of video. And today I'll show you that video. I'll also show you another video. That video will include the person who wrote on the back of this lie probably more than anyone else. Heck, by his own admission, the lie was his call to action. Of course, we logically conclude that this lie wouldn't have been his call to anything had he simply paid attention to the actual truth. Of course, the person I'm referring to is now our current president, Joe Biden. Springing into action over a lie. It would be pretty funny if it wasn't so sad, serious, and just downright disgraceful. So here's the infamous Charlottesville lie. And for those on the left, likely the first time many of them actually heard the truth. And after the clip, we'll take a listen to Joe Biden during the Democratic National Convention. How far can the power of a lie really take you? Well, it seems like Joe rode that lie all the way to the White House. So let's check it all out.
The Charlottesville lie. Very fine people on both sides. Except that isn't all he said. And they knew it then, and they know it now. Watch this.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Robert E. Lee are not the same.
Well, no, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, excuse me, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
Treated unfairly, sir. I'm sorry, I just didn't understand what you were saying. You were saying the press has treated white nationalists unfairly?
No,
I just didn't understand what you were saying.
No. There were people in that rally, and I looked the night before. If you look, there were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day it looked like they had some rough, bad people, neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. But you had a lot of people in that group that were there to innocently protest and very legally protest because, you know, I don't know if you know, they had a permit. The other group didn't have a permit. So I only tell you this, there are two sides to a story. I thought what took place was a horrible moment for our country, a horrible moment. But there are two sides to the country. Does anybody have a final? Does anybody have, you have an infrastructure.
What makes you think? This might be today the first time the news networks played those full remarks in their context.
Just a week ago yesterday was the third anniversary of the events in Charlottesville. Close your eyes. Remember what you saw on television. Remember seeing those neo-Nazis and Klansmen and white supremacists coming out of fields with lighted torches, veins bulging, spewing the same anti-Semitic bile heard across Europe in the 30s. Remember the violent clash that ensued between those spreading hate and those with the courage to stand against it. And remember what the president said when asked? He said there were, quote, very fine people on both sides. It was a wake-up call for us as a country, and for me, a call to action. At that moment, I knew I'd have to run.
Wow. So Joe Biden knew he'd have to run because he wasn't capable of finding out what Trump really said. Biden's quote-unquote call to action was based on a lie. He obviously never bothered to watch Trump's press conference from that day. That's one conclusion you can make, but how about this conclusion? I guess there is another angle, obviously. Perhaps the Democrats always knew the context of Trump's remarks. Perhaps they understood in full, at least behind closed doors. Perhaps Biden and the Democrats ran with this lie for years because they did know the truth. They were just banking on the fact that you didn't. And you'd never care enough to find out. You'd believe them. It was probably their hope. That's when Biden's claims that Trump said there were fine people on both sides came out and kept coming out, and it was the drumbeat you heard for roughly 3 years. And the people watching at home who supported the Democrats, they would just say yes. Trump is horrible. What a racist clown. The Democrats were banking on the fact that you just believed them without checking out things for yourself. Either way, whether they honestly didn't know the full story or they did and just hoped you didn't, it's all roughly the same. They lied about what Trump said. That's really all that matters. And as for Joe Biden himself, completely clueless on most everything. I don't think he's had an original thought in well over a decade. There's one thing about Donald Trump. When Trump took the mic, you got the message. Whether you loved it or you hated it, you got the message. And I think if we're all honest with ourselves as Republicans and conservatives, off-prompter Donald Trump is the version of Trump that did get him in a lot of trouble. But at least he was authentic. His passion was his passion. It was never manufactured. There is no honest passion in a Joe Biden speech because it's hard for him to show genuine passion and read at the same time, especially when what he's reading is more than likely something just tossed up on a screen, something that he personally had no hand in, possibly even no thoughts about. Joe Biden is like putty. The folks running the show can just mold him according to the winds of the day. That's probably, honestly, why he was elected. At any rate, Donald Trump is 2-0, and one of the biggest lies in political history has finally been exposed for everyone to see, and perhaps, just perhaps, we'll never have to discuss it again. So what are your thoughts? What did you think about the impeachment trial? Another win for Donald Trump. And what did you think about the fine people nonsense finally coming to light for all to see? Were you happy to see the lie exposed, or was there just too much damage done by the lie and too many people benefited from it politically that it just doesn't matter now anymore anyway? Please tell me your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, we will talk to you later.